Hi everyone, I'm Jordan Prince, and this is The Moment. In this series, I like to spotlight moments in music history that leave a lasting impression with the listener and try to figure out how they did it. And today, I want to look at this song.
All my exes live in Texas, and Texas is a place I dearly love to be.
Oh, well now, just hold on a second there. Play a little bit more of that one.
But all my exes live in Texas. That's why I hang my hat in Tennessee.
All right, Whitey Schaefer, not so bad. I mean, if we're still gonna do the episode, what I meant was this song. That's right, Rolling Stone magazine's favorite band, the Rolling Stones. The songwriting partnership of English musicians Mick Jagger and Dead Pirate Found Under a Boat, Keith Richards, is one of the most successful in rock and roll history. And this particular song, Gimme Shelter, is considered to be one of their best, if not their best and most celebrated songs. Kind of a coincidence that today's song is Gimme Shelter, because I am literally sitting in front of an open door where it's very cold and very rainy. Thanks, Germany! Let's take a little look at their history and keep this video moving along, because you know, as they say, a Rolling Stone gathers no moss. Keith Richards and Mick Jagger became childhood friends in 1950 in Dortford, Kent. Not short for Kentucky. In the mid-1950s, Jagger formed a garage band with his friend Dick Taylor, which is the worst job I could imagine having. The group mainly played material from Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and Little Richard and Bo Diddley, not to be confused with his little brother, Diddley Squat. Jagger met Richards again in October of 1961 on Platform 2 of Dartford Railway Station. I hope you're ready for lots of this voice today. The Chuck Berry and Muddy Waters records that Jagger was carrying created a shared interest between the two. A musical partnership began shortly afterwards. Richards and Taylor often met at Jagger's house, which I can only imagine, if I fantasize about it, is just covered in sequins. Very shiny. The meetings moved to Taylor's house in 1961, where Alan Etherington and Bob Beckwith joined the band. Try and say that 5 times fast. The quintet called themselves the Blues Boys. Gotta say, not the coolest name. But that was kind of the thing of the time, right? It was like the Monkees, the Beatles, the Stones, the Doors, the Blonde, the Bleed, the Blue, the Blues Boys. No mas. On April 7th, they visited the Ealing Jazz Club. That's where they met the members of Blues Incorporated, which sounds like the saddest business to have a job at. I'm CEO of Blues Incorporated. Blues Incorporated included, of course, legendary guitarist Brian Jones, keyboardist Ian Stewart, and the great drummer Charlie Watts. The addition of drummer Tony Chapman completed the lineup of Jagger, Richards, Jones, Stewart, and Taylor. According to Richards, Jones named the band on a phone call to Jazz News. When asked by a journalist for the band's name, Jones saw a Muddy Waters LP lying on the floor with his track Rolling Stone face up. Also, what were phone calls like to something called Jazz News? What was Jazz News about? It's 3 o'clock. Jazz News. The classic lineup of the famous Rolling Stones played for the first time together on a Saturday in January 1963 at the Ealing Jazz Club. However, it wasn't until a gig a little bit later in February where Charlie Watts became the permanent drummer. Shortly after, the band began their first tour of the UK. They were performing Chicago blues and songs from Little Richard and Bo Diddley. In 1963, they started to find their musical stride as well as their popularity. In 1964, the Rolling Stones topped the Beatles as the #1 band in the United Kingdom based on 2 different surveys, which says a lot. I mean, it's the Beatles. The name of the band was changed shortly after their first gig to officially The Rolling Stones, as opposed to Rolling Stone. In May of 1963, the Rolling Stones signed, check this name out, Andrew Loog Oldham as their manager. And this guy, despite doing wonders for the band, was an absolutely crazy person. But he did magical things for the band. He imagined a band that contrasted to the Beatles. You know, a lot of bands at the time wanted to dress just like them, have the bowl cuts and the nice suits and the pointed boots, but he imagined a band with unmatched clothing and long hair and kind of messy looking. He wanted to make the Rolling Stones a raunchy, gamey, unpredictable bunch of undesirables. Andrew wanted to establish that the Rolling Stones were threatening, uncouth, animalistic. He also reduced all of their ages in publicity material to make them appear as teenagers. Sneaky, sneaky loogie. That's a sneaky old Lug. Andrew Oldham saw very little potential for a band that lost all of their songwriting royalties by being a cover act. And he had a point. It was also limiting the appeal to teenage audiences, and you need those teens. Jagger and Richards decided to write songs together. In fact, the old story goes that Oldham locked them into a kitchen one night and said, "Don't come out until you have a song." You know, manager stuff. It was a slow start with their original songs, but soon they got the hang of it. Because the band's second UK LP, The Rolling Stones #2, was released in January 1965 and went #1. The single, called The Last Time, was the very first Jagger's Richard original composition that went #1 in the UK. It reached #9 in the US charts, and it was later identified by Richards as the bridge into thinking about writing for the Stones. He's quoted saying, "It gave us a level of confidence, a pathway how to do it." Their very first international super hit was, of course, "I Can't Get No Satisfaction But I Try." Again, another famous band that really, really wanted me to be in the group. However, I was minus 30 years old at the time, and it just didn't seem realistic that my grandfather could play guitar. The album Aftermath, which was released in 1966, was the very first album from the Stones that was comprised entirely of Jagger's Richards' original compositions. That album reached #1 in the UK and #2 in the US. Then January 1967 saw the album release Between the Buttons. That album reached #3 in the UK and again #2 in the US. This was Andrew Oldham's last venture as the Rolling Stones manager. Alan Klein took over his position as the band's manager in 1965. Richards recalled, "There was a new deal with Decca to be made, and he said he could do it." The US version included the double A side single, Let's Spend the Night Together and Ruby Tuesday, which went #1 in the US and #3 in the UK. Okay, and then starting from around this time until about 1968, I know I'm skipping a lot here, but there is so much that happens in this window of time. Wildly tumultuous times, including drug raids with Richards, crime involved, there's cheating girlfriends, there's like love triangles going on, the police are involved, they go to Morocco, there's public split-ups, and just all that classic rock and roll headlining. Okay, it's too much to talk about. We still have to get to the song, so go enjoy that for yourself. The Rolling Stones are crazy people. Okay, so in 1968, they started working on material for their new album. These sessions resulted in the song Jumpin' Jack Flash. The subsequent album, Beggar's Banquet, was sort of a return to form for rhythm and blues for the band. This featured the singles Street Fighting Man and Sympathy for the Devil. The Stones' last album of the 60s was the topic of today's song, in fact, Let It Bleed. It featured today's song, the very special Gimme Shelter, with guest lead vocals from Mary Clayton. Cool music fact, she's the sister of Sam Clayton, the drummer for the American rock band Little Feat. Other tracks on this album include the everlasting You Can't Always Get What You Want. The album version of this song kicks off with the London Bach Choir. The London Bach Choir initially asked that their name be removed from the credits. Apparently, they were horrified at the content in the other songs, but later they withdrew this request. Midnight Rambler and Love in Vain are also featured on this album. So now that we're finally on the album Let It Bleed, you're probably wondering, what is the moment of today's song, Gimme Shelter? At around the 1 minute and 7 second mark, Mary Clayton enters the chat and explodes onto this song with bold, beautiful harmony. Harmony. The song is about war and violence and storms a-brewin'. It's actually about a few different things. Richards says that he started writing the song because he saw people literally running for shelter in a rainstorm. And then there's also the story that Richards wrote the song when Mick Jagger went to go film a movie with his then girlfriend, and there was jealousy involved. But at the end of the day, the song is mostly referred to as a war and anti-Vietnam song. And with all this going on, with all this thunderstorm and violence and rage going on lyrically, the song still only has about 4 chords. That's pretty cool because I've always found when the lyrics are spinning quite a complicated web, sometimes it's best if the foundation for that web is as simple as possible. And the Rolling Stones knew that. Their foundation is in rhythm and blues, and a lot of those classic oldies just have 3 or 4 chords. Gimme Shelter is a moody, bluesy, heavy rock ballad with tightly wound percussive movement and rough, rowdy Jagger just punching the mic with his voice. And then unexpectedly, in that first chorus, a female voice explodes into the soundscape, bringing in a bold and beautiful melody, which helps give the chorus a bit of a stronger melodic structure. It hits harder and it leaves a huge imprint. And that means I get to talk about Mary Clayton. As usual in these rock and roll history stories, Mary Clayton's vocals were recorded last minute around midnight. The track was arranged by her friend and record producer, Jack Nietzsche, spelled exactly the same as the philosopher. After the first verse is sung by Jagger, Mary Clayton enters, and the next 3 verses are sung together.
He said, "You want to do another one?" I said, "Sure, I'll do another one."
I mean, she just did it like a couple of times, you know.
So I said to myself, I'm going to do another one. I'm going to blow them out of this room.
At almost 3 minutes into the song, Clayton's voice cracks from the strain. She's heard almost screaming the final stanza. Clayton gave it her all. She exerted everything, her energy, her soul, and her body. It remains the most prominent contribution to a Rolling Stones track by a female vocalist. As you've seen on the show so far, we have covered artists like Freddie Mercury and Beyonce, and I do not have vocal skills like them or Mary Clayton. But what I do want to show you is how a simple harmony can really build some structure and make a chorus or a refrain of a song sound absolutely beautiful and really help move the story of your lyrics along. That's right, today's exercise is going to be all about harmony, Corinne. So I'm going to change the setup here. I'm going to plug in my guitar and just make a very simple 4-chord track, make a very simple chorus that you can make yourself at home, something anyone can do, and then add a harmony on top of it just to show you how it gives it a little movement and a little strength and a little power. Time to change the setup and build a song. All right, guys, just before we get started, a little gear talk. I've got my Shure SM7 microphone plugged into my Focusrite Starlet 2i2 audio interface, you know, that one, the one that everybody has. And I've got my trusty old Telecaster here, all going into my GarageBand for Mac, because it's not about what you have, it's about how you use it. All right, guys, so today's exercise is just about harmony. So I've chosen 3 very simple chords that I can play back and forth in a 4/4 rhythm, very relaxed. Then I'm going to sing some do-do-dos, a very simple melody on top, and then I'm going to build a harmony on top of that. I'm not going to get too technical. I'm not going to go too deep into theory or anything like that because I don't understand it. No, but it does take some practice. So keep going. You got this. Keep going. So first, here are the chords that I've chosen. I'm going to make up a little melody out of these 3 chords. Do 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 do. Okay, let me just think of a little harmony to go along with that. Do 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 do. Now let's throw it all together and check out the finished product. All right, guys, well, what is there to be said about the Rolling Stones that hasn't been said already? One of the most long-lasting bands to break out of the 60s British invasion, and they're still touring to this day. Is there another song from another artist that you think I should cover in this series? Just put it in the comments below. Let me know what you think about the series. Make sure to hit subscribe, ding-a-ling that little notification bell. You know how YouTube works. Don't miss out on any future videos. And hey, thanks for watching.
Allison in Galveston somehow lost her sanity. Dimples, who now lives in Temple's got the law looking for me. All my exes live in Texas.